All right, 4 more questions left. Last Q&A video for a while. Sure, in the future I'll like do it again, let people write down comments again, leave comments to a poll as questions and I'll answer them, but covering all the questions that I'm answering for this this instance of a Q&A. First question is, what is my most extravagant purchase, and what would I do if I just won like $100,000 today? Most extravagant purchase. So when you say the word extravagant, I'm gonna like think you don't mean something necessary, like you know, rent payments sometimes are up there. Buying positions in the stock market is up there. I guess you're meaning like some kind of a luxury. I would say my biggest purchase of something like luxurious. It's a good question, and I'm not even prepared, so I need to think about this. These 2 things come to mind, and pick whatever you think fits the question. Last year in State Line, Nevada, Lake Tahoe, Herbs and Rye and I went to a steakhouse. I paid $100 for my meal. It was the most I ever paid for a meal, and that is something I'm thinking could be the answer to this question. Also, 2 summers ago, I had an Airbnb in Omaha, Nebraska while I was playing poker in Council Bluffs, and even though I had that room, I took 3 days off and paid for a room at Harrah's Council Bluffs. The poker room is in Horseshoe, the hotel rooms are in Harrah's, just to like have my own room and total privacy and just like fill the room with like food and hang out and watch TV. And those 3 nights cost about $350. Was not necessary in the least. I could have just like slept in the house and like when the guy went to work, cooked in the kitchen, and I don't know. I decided to get a room to myself, and it was pretty expensive. So those 2 things come to mind. If I had $100,000, what would I do? Not much different at all. Most of it would just go towards my positions in the stock market, and I would retire like 5 years earlier than I'm going to. I would probably, with that much extra, occasionally stay on the strip on the weekends. Instead of like 5 days on the strip, Sunday through Thursday, and then in an Airbnb on the weekend, and then back to the strip, I would try to book every once in a while a 12-night reservation on the strip. So like Sunday through Thursday, and the Friday and Saturday, and the following Sunday and Thursday, like all in Harrah's. So don't have to move. It would be more expensive. That the weekend would probably be like $350 instead of like $100 for the weekend off the strip in an Airbnb. So occasionally I would pay like the extra $250 to avoid moving a couple of times. And I just prefer like the total privacy and living on the strip. Whether I'm playing poker or taking days off, I prefer living on the strip to living in an Airbnb. Have I played with any pro poker players or celebrities? I can't. The only guy at the table, if you even know who he is, Elielezra's brother or cousin, I think cousin, David something. He was like a pro soccer player and then like calls himself a pro poker player. I feel like he just has a lot of money and like plays poker fairly often. We were at the same Bellagio table sometimes back in like 2015. That's the only guy I think of at the same table. Brad Garrett has been in the room, once in Aria in 2015, once in MGM in 2022. Dutch Boyd was in Bellagio once. It was funny, I wasn't at his table, but I recognized him. And a guy I knew who was playing at Dutch Boyd's table, he went to take a smoke break, and I went over to him and said, "Is that Dutch Boyd, like sitting on your left?" He didn't recognize him, but I did, and it was Dutch Boyd. So that's all I got for that question. Not much. Chumley, I played at the same table as Chumley from Pawn Stars in Aria, now that I think about it, and that could be it. The next like closest, Seth Curry, not Steph Curry, who's on the Warriors, Seth Curry, who went to Duke and has been on like 12 teams in the NBA. I was asking for a table change at the desk at Bellagio once when he walked in and put his name on the 510 list. Have I ever considered having a meetup game like Trooper does at the Westgate? No, kind of messes with the like having my own schedule and all the flexibility, which is one of the aspects of this life I really like. I understand it's another type of income. I don't know, not my thing. I'm also not huge. I've thought about merchandise. Some people have asked about it. I've had ideas about it. Just seems like very, very cumbersome. I have some other ideas. The newsletter is one that's now happening. Other ideas that have like less going on in the way of like something tangible or me needing to be in a certain place. I like making the YouTube videos. I like making the newsletter. I have some other ideas in that realm. Not so much into like merchandise or meetup games. I could see an occasional one. I don't know where or when it would happen. I think the question was about like a very regular thing, like weekly, like the Trooper. Since he mentioned the Trooper, the viewer who asked the question, can't see ever having like an ongoing thing like that, no. And last question is from Leonard about, I mentioned in the past that I think retirement funds are scams. Could I explain? Okay, here's the thing. Specifically, when talking about Roth IRAs or traditional IRAs, the age at which you could withdraw the money, tax-free, penalty-free, is 59 and a half. I just think that's a very old age, definitely for me. I know my circumstance. I think for a lot of people, they don't understand how far in the future that is, and I also think it's what I call ironic. Imagine, okay, here's the thing. If you're thinking about putting money into a retirement fund, like one of those IRAs, say you make $50,000 a year, and your expenses are $50,000 a year. You don't have any money left over, so don't even bother thinking about it. You don't have the money to put into it. It's moot for you because you don't have the extra money. Now say you make $125,000 a year and you only spend $50,000 a year. Yes, you have the money left over. You have tons. You have plenty of money left over to invest in positions in these funds, but what's the point? If you're making that much money, you don't need it. You could just, you know, make your $125,000 a year, spend $50,000 a year, you have $75,000 left over, put it into Apple, put it into a mutual fund that tracks the S&P 500, put it into Coca-Cola, put it into Smuckers. Like, you could just put it into like almost anything as long as it's not some ridiculous penny stock. And okay, how old are you now? 25, 30, 35? When you're 50, when you're 52, you'll just have plenty of money. You don't need to wait for this tax beneficial fund that will let you withdraw the money when you're 59 and a half. You could fund your retirement on your own with just a traditional brokerage account, and you don't need it. So the people who could use it don't have the money for it. The people who have the money to use it don't need it. There's a lot of people just getting like windfalls of money from these funds when they're 59 and a half years old. I really have a tough time like imagining who needs that, who's gonna have like a massive amount of expenses when you're 59 and a half years old. I understand like maybe a decade before that, you might have children going to college. Not a lot of people have children going to college when they're 60. Like, there are just people who like work, they earn money, they save money, they invest some money, and they don't need these like when they're 50, when they're 52, when they're 55, when they're 57. Like, they're well off. They're not the richest people alive, but they're well off, and they just get this windfall when they're 59 and a half. So like, it's cool, it's nice, and what do they do with it? I don't know, go on an extra vacation a year? Great, but like, I don't think it was necessary. And especially for me, my fear, which is why I took the money out of that account I had, I was worried about being like 45 years old and having enough money so that I don't need to make money anymore. Say you're 45 years old, if you had $600,000, you don't need to earn money anymore. Well, say only like $75,000 of it is liquid, like in a checking account, and $525,000 of it is in a Roth IRA. Well, what do you do now? Like, you're just gonna do what for the next 14 and a half years until you could withdraw that money tax-free, penalty-free? I don't know what you're gonna do for those next 14 and a half years. Or you're gonna take it all out when you're 45 and pay huge taxes and penalties on it. I guess some people use it as like a kind of like a fail-safe. They put it in and they don't need to worry about like withdrawing it for like an impulse purchase or something like that, and they think they can make it till they're 59 and a half. I just think it's better, if you're responsible enough, it's better to just, you know, when you get that extra money, whatever, every month, every year, whatever, and you have the option to put it into a retirement account, just put it into an individual brokerage account and pay a little bit of taxes each year. And yeah, you're gonna pay a little more in taxes throughout your life, but the trade-off, what you're getting is that you have access to the money. If you want to withdraw it from your brokerage account, you can. There isn't a penalty to pay. It's liquid, like only slightly less liquid than just having money sitting in a checking account. So I think it kind of like doesn't make sense for many people. The people who could need it can't afford it. The people who can afford it often don't need it in the first place, and then there are people like me who just plan on retiring much earlier than 59 and a half, and for those people, like, the money is being held hostage until you're like very old, and even if you have the money to retire at a much younger age, you can't, because you can't actually use the money. So if I was redundant, okay. If I didn't explain it well enough, then I'm sorry, but I'm a fan of earning money and saving and investing and being responsible. I just don't understand the point to those. I think the 59 and a half is a very old age. If the age at which you can withdraw it tax-free and penalty-free were like 44 and a half, 45 and a half, something like that, I would be a much bigger fan of it. So I think a lot of people could understand, say the age were 100. You put this money into your Roth IRA, your traditional IRA, and at age 100 you could withdraw it tax-free and penalty-free. I think a lot of people would understand, what's the point? I'll probably be dead by the time I'm 100. Even if I'm not dead, I'm gonna be so old, like, what's the point? Like, my money is just like gone for like my whole life basically. I think 100 is a good example to illustrate how I'm thinking. 100 and 59 and a half, much different ages, but to me 59 and a half is like so far away and so beyond the point where I think I'm going to be able to retire that it's the same. It's too old of an age is pretty much the main thing for me. If it were a much younger age, like any age like 47 or younger, I would be a much bigger fan of it. And remember, rice is a spoon food.